This hangout on air is live. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to OreAni Spring 2018 lineup, part two. So last week we did the part one where we covered a few titles such as Hinamatsuri, Sword Art Online, Golden Kamuy, and stuff like that. So
Sword Art Online Alternative.
To Misotan. Yeah. So this time we're going to cover a few other titles that Nick and I have watched today. So, I guess I should have it on my screen, huh? Welcome, yay. So here's Nick. Say hi to Nick.
Hi.
And then, of course, me, Tank, your every so often introduce these things. I'm a little distracted. I'm playing Danmachi. I should have stopped it before I started. So our first title for today, let's see here. We got lined up is a strange show. I have only seen 2 episodes. I have not seen the third one. And I think there's a 4th one out, right?
There's like a 5th one out.
Yeah, so sure. We got Maho Shoujo Saito, or Magical Girl Sight.
Indeed.
Yeah, it's it's unique.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm actually the one who put a count in for this one. Excuse me for a moment. Because this anime has a really difficult entry episode 1. I actually remember I was at an amusement park at the time, because a lot of times when I go to just a local amusement park, I bring a pair of headphones along and I mitigate long lines, which it absolutely was a really packed day in the park, by watching episodes that I have stashed on the phone. And so I hadn't watched this one yet, and I'm like, all right, I watched the other one that I'll talk about later, so let me start this one. And this episode 1 had me shielding, consciously trying to avoid people behind me just so they wouldn't look over the shoulder and catch what was going on in this. Not that I expect many onlookers to, but episode 1 was very dark, would you say?
Yeah.
They tried to depict a situation that was unhumanly just depressing for the main protagonist. And let me pull up an article here really quick. So let's get to the premise of this show. It's called Maho Shoujo Sight in English, which I'm going to go off on a small tangent again. I have a slight problem with, because I'm going to screen share something here really quickly. And this is just a moment from episode 1. Application window. Oh, no, it's not showing up. All right, well, we'll just do it this way then. We'll do entire screen. Share and blah. So this is a moment from the first episode, just a piece that I saved, and you can kind of see right here in Japanese we have Maho Shoujo Saito, and with a sub-picture or subtext of Magical Girl Sight. But in English it's being called Maho Shoujo Sight, which kind of blends the Japanese and the English together in a way I don't like, because whenever I see it I want to call it Maho Shoujo Site, just because it looks like it's supposed to be that kind of a character set, So that's my initial complaint with it. But beyond that, it follows a character named Asagiri Aya, who, as I was priorly saying, leads so far a really depressing life. And although you kind of start up with kind of a spoiler moment of how the magical girls kind of look before they throw you into the background story of Aya. Um, we are pretty much introduced to a story where any girl who's led a life of some kind of level of misfortune is usually somehow visited by that character actually in my screenshot, but who's kind of like the mascot character of the show, and it bestows upon them a stick with a magical ability of some sort. And they, it has its own story. Using the stick depletes your life force, that you can kind of tell how much you have left by an emblem that shows up on kind of like your wrist. And they say like you have to abide by the rules, but I don't think they cleanly really go into what the rules are. It seems really ambiguous. But very quickly into the storyline, we're kind of met with this mechanic where there's something called the Tempest, which most of the characters know nothing about. They just know it as a looming, really, really bad event that they need more information about because it's probably going to directly affect them. So, like, while the first episode spends its time constructing the depressing background of the main protagonist, the following episodes don't continue with that. It starts telling its story, and it doesn't try to introduce more tragedy specifically onto her, so to speak. So, like, once you get past that episode 1 hurdle, just know that other characters might have some depressing backstory, but things don't really get worse for our main protagonist, is all I want to clarify from the get-go here. So if you dropped it because episode 1 wasn't your speed, which I'd say it had impact shock value. Like, I could not believe that this thing was kind of on TV, and that actually kind of made me wonder what the rest of the show kind of had in store. And I also just was somewhat drawn to not like the style of it, because our main protagonist, Aya, she kind of has an interesting character design where she kind of has like a moe female version of like the dead fish eyes, as we usually assign to like more male protagonists. And the transitioning into the magical girl minus uniform, because there's not really transformed clothes, it's just more transformed facial features in this particular series, kind of drew me in even further, because I just thought the art of the magical girl in this one was somewhat unique, in my opinion. So I'm really in for it to see kind of what that whole Tempest is going to be about, uh, and just a lot of the story that it's kind of constructed. It's, as much as I don't want to say this, I think they're just really playing up the trope that Madoka Magica kind of built with the whole like depressing story of magical girl element, but these guys like try to take it to perhaps a distasteful extreme. I'm not sure. Like, I'm sure a lot of people won't like it for what it is, but like it's not the worst of anime to come out, in my opinion. So
here's the thing I want to say about this, okay? Because like you mentioned Madoka, right?
yeah.
And along those lines, you also have, what was it? The Magical Girl series that came up earlier with the.
I'm guessing you mean Yuki Yuna.
No, it was sooner. I can't. Why am I drawing a blank now? Where they kind of ended up in a death game as well.
Oh, the Magical Girl training project is.
Oh, yeah, Rising Project. Yeah, that's what it was. So once again, you have a lot of these dark tones where having to do with magical girls, right? But unlike all the other ones, which is why this one seems so different, is that it doesn't try to play off as a normal magical girl show. It's not, doesn't start all happy, doesn't start friendly, it doesn't start with promises of great things. It starts off really dark with all the characters, and also how you said we got a lot of information voided from us, and I think that was because she closed the site before it could even finish talking to her because she didn't believe it.
That one's kind of weird to me, because like, slight initial spoiler for like anyone really watching. As what Tank was just discussing, there is a magical girls website that these girls typically visit when they get their powers. There's only one character who kind of had their power before they visited the site where I'm at in the story, and that's kind of like why she was able to access it. But I kind of wonder, like, what's the point of, like, at least from the perspective of our initial protagonist Aya, she could never go back and re-access that site, and it kind of seemed like you should have been able to, like, since you were still a magical girl, you should have like had access, like that site will load for you and it wouldn't just 404. But like, that's not clearly explained as to why that happened yet, and I'm kind of curious about it, because it's like, why do you only have like one chance to visit that site and then like never again, at least from our protagonist's point of view, it seems so far. Maybe she did go back to it, but I don't remember it. Like, anytime she tried, it looked like it didn't exist anymore.
So, and the strange thing about this show, which is a little different from the other one, while, like, let's say in Raising Project, Snow White or Shuri Yukihime, right, whatever her name was, had a friend, and together they decided that they would continue doing the right thing and just try to get through it. Well, in this one, the person she ends up teaming with is actually telling her, get rid of the trash. Why don't waste your time on them. Just use your power to make things better. These people who are doing these things
Do
aren't
the world some
people.
good and get rid of the scummy people that you
So
identify as scummy.
yeah, so it's even darker because it's making you instead of trying to teach you to do the right thing, it's more or less giving her this even bigger conflict of, should I get rid of these people? I mean, she's even afraid, right, of using her powers because she thinks she'll just kill everyone with her powers.
Yeah, she's kind of really innately good, like, despite her,
Torment.
like, yeah, like what you would think of her impression of the world would be due to her, I'm just going to call it a depressive backstory. She's still ultimately good and does not wish to harm people.
And the only other thing that surprised me about this show is that although they call them magical sticks, they come in all forms, all different designs. But the thing that surprised me was that the magical girls can use each other's
And about
magical
that,
stick.
I, I there's like this other question looming like over my head right now, because we I'm not going to give away that element at this time, but like, it seems like there is like only possibly one condition in which you could use others, because I haven't seen anybody. Yeah, well, no, I'm just going to give away too much if I say this, so I'll bring it up later at the end of season, maybe, if this question of mine's ever answered.
But yeah, it's very bold in showing that it doesn't care about, or that our protagonists don't care about her friend, or her friend doesn't care about the lives of others. It's, especially if they're doing bad things. Like, she just slices that. It's just crazy. I'm actually just in it to see how many people they kill. That's why I'm watching this show. I wonder if she'll change her mind, if she'll be put in a place where she has to kill another person. And the other thing that surprised me was just at first, like when you see her in the beginning of episode 1, she's all bloodied.
Yeah.
And now I realize it's not because she was getting beat or anything. That just happens when they use their magical
Yeah,
powers.
like that's the representation of you like spending your life force on the magic.
So I thought that was interesting. And also, I kind of want to it's just a crazy show. I want to see how far it goes. It will probably not end up too well, I think, but who knows? It'll maybe give me something fun like Yuki, where I was just like at the end going, "What?"
Hey, you never finished watching that, but yeah, as I think my like somewhat ending or no. So before like we really start wrapping this one up, I just kind of wanted to say that craziest stick so far is the stick of the idol person. You know who I'm talking about. I kind of like cracked up so hard. I'm like, this is kind of a scene I need to show people. Like, this is my stick. This is its ability. I will
Actually,
withhold how it visualizes me losing my life force.
I actually haven't seen that.
Well, that's at least I didn't spoil it for you. Um,
I saw that they noticed that she was one, but
yeah, yeah. That's you're probably going to be laughing just because it's so absurd. But one of the things that is really weird about this show that I've seen in the background of like every episode because of specifically the ending and whenever the Maho Shoujo site is visualized is like where there's the Tempest countdown. There's like these weird like I don't know if they're representation of souls or whatever. But like in the background, what I'm talking about, the thing swimming through the sky that I just don't want to say on air because I don't want to sound weird, that are in every ending sequence because the ending sequence for some reason is like really live action. For like it doesn't use like the characters. They like actually went out got like I don't know if it's the voice actors or somebody else, but like you have this weird like mixed animation, mixed live action ending that always plays, and that element is all about like the ending too. So it's like, what is going on here? Like, I want this explained now, just because I don't want to get to the end of the season and be like, that's what that stuff was supposed to represent all this time, which they totally might do.
okay. So are we okay to go to the next title? All right, let's go to the next title. So I don't know how you took that. Maybe watch it, maybe don't. But it's just again another title of those crazy magical girl shows.
I'd say like if you're a really big anime fan, it is unique to say the least. And while it might not be good, I don't think there's really another like magical girl oriented show that'll have the kickoff that this one did. So like if you want something unique and for that reason alone, like just check it out.
But there was that one magical girl with the tarot cards that kind of had a dark start, but we'll save that for next time. Let's see here. Next up is Tachiban or Tachibana-kan to Lie Angel. I don't know why I'm having a hard time trying to say that word.
Mhm.
So the Tachibana-kan is the dormitory that this girl ends up going to. I can't remember her name. I'm bad at the character names.
Yeah, I actually didn't pull up any info because I wasn't planning on saying a whole lot.
Yeah, well, it's a nice little short. I think here it is. Sorry, the main character, I think is Iori, who ends up going to this new school, and she gets to live in this dormitory. She was expecting something completely different from what she's ended up seeing, but other than that, she finds out that it's a place that she's been to before and has acquaintances there, and it's a really, really short episodes, but it's your Yuri show for this season. So it has a lot of girl undertones going on.
A quick note about it that I think a lot of the English viewers won't get. This one kind of has a title a lot like the Turavru series, where like Turavru was always supposed to be like trouble. When you pull this one up, it actually also has the name Tachibana-kan Triangle. So I think To Lie Angel is supposed to be To Lie Angle at the same time as To Lie Angel.
Mhm.
Just
Maybe.
no, I mean it. If you like, go to my anime list, this although it recognizes To Lie Angle, it actually says Triangle in the text for what the series is.
Okay, I see. I see what you're saying. Well, it's short. That how long are they? Like 5 minutes long? 5 minutes
Somewhere
or
around there.
so. Yeah. Where it's a girls' dormitory. This girl ends up going there and ends up running into a bunch of little things. Sees a naked girl out there in the yard. Has problems with one of her friends. I think it was Hinabi. I think was her name. That was a childhood friend that she forgot about, and they made a promise. And so it's just girl, this girl getting into troublesome situations in this dorm, and a lot of crazy stuff happening. So, um, not much to say about it because it's just short, so you should be able to get through it real quick. It's on Crunchyroll, so it's easy to access. But I guess there'll probably be a love triangle with how this title is. It
Yeah, but
was,
like the gimmick of like most of the episodes is while there's like supposed to be Yuri undertones, it's also like it's kind of like Turabru in that sense where it's somewhat incidental. Like it's not the motivation of the main protagonist to end up in those situations. It just kind of happens, much like Turabu.
yeah. What do you call that again? What was it? Lucky Skebe or something like
Yeah, I guess,
that.
but like not the proper gender character. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's not as bad as Yuki Rito. Where his face goes into the girl's underwear half the time. You're like, how does it even happen that way? Like they'll bump face to face and somehow land in a 69 position in True Love. And I was always like baffled. How did they get in that position of bumping into each other? But yeah, so I did like the character designs in the show though. So that's the reason why I'm watching it. Hello, Jessica.
Hi there.
Thank you for joining us. We were just talking about Tachibana Kan to
Oh,
Lai.
yeah, I tried 2 episodes of that and just wasn't for me. Oh, thank you for posting the lineup there.
Out of curiosity, the only one other title we brought up so far, because I think we're mostly done with this one.
Yeah.
I pretty much let Tank handle it. I just brought up the triangle thing. Yeah, there's not much to say. It tries to sell that girl on girl Lucky Skede thing, even though it's like not technical. Well, yeah, hard to say. I can't say I know of any other series like it, so that's kind of why I'm watching it too. And again, it is like a 3-minute, 30-ish short. But Jessica, the only one other series we did talk about was the Magical Girl Sight. I don't know if you've watched it.
Oh my
Tried to watch it.
Um,
Are
I
watching it.
I started watching the first episode and then I saw the kitten and I knew what was going to happen to the kitten, and so I bailed and I have not gone back to it. So
yeah, I imagine that's the case for a lot of people. But I said my piece on it where like it was supposed to be like a super depressing initial episode, and then like after it, they just focus more on the story, and things aren't continually super depressing for the main protagonist, but Like they might explain some other people's backstories, which, you know, might have some of that depressing drama backstory stuff to them, but like, yeah, you're after episode 1, you're really not in for much more of the same with every other episode thereafter. So like if you could stomach the first one, it does start telling its story on episode 2 plus. So
Okay, I'm okay with depressing, dark and dreary stuff, but I draw the line at kitten murder.
yeah, that
So,
there is, yep, that's you called it, is all I will say.
Just the way the episode was going.
Yep.
Our poor little Meow-chan was not long.
I don't remember this scene. I don't think it ever happened.
Yeah.
You guys need to stop talking about it.
But I'll be curious to hear what you have to say when you've finished watching it, if it is worth watching.
To me, I would honestly say I don't know where it's going right now, but just because of I don't want to reiterate too much, but just because I want to hear your reaction on this. I was telling, you know, YouTube, for whoever watches this, that when I started watching it, I was literally in line for a roller coaster at an amusement park. And I was like so hard trying to like obscure what was going on screen. So like no other person would just be like, the hell is going on in that thing that he was watching? Because I'm like, no, this is not onlooker friendly.
No.
All right, so let's go to our next title, which so happens to be Comic Girls. So this is an anime all about comics, or as others may know it as manga, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd say more specifically the mangaka themselves.
So
then again, I've only seen actually the first episode. I'm a little behind on this one.
Yeah, so what was I going to say about this show? It's great. It's pretty fun. It starts off with two, I want to say they're high schoolers, right? In the first year, going to a new school, but they end up joining a dormitory, which is for up and coming manga artists. And there's already, I guess, people there that have published works and everything going on. So I think it's like a fun thing for these newcomers to come and gain experience and practice their craft within this place. And which I think is a pretty cool idea. But since it's an anime and it's all about cute girls, it's always about them just having fun and just the crazy imagination and things that happen in that dormitory are just really funny to me. Like I said, there's two new first years that end up going to that dorm, and they find out that they're roommates. I guess it's 2 person per room, and they also have what their senpais, right? That also share a room, but they're actually have published books. But it's funny learning about the contrast about all the characters and their manga that correlates to them and how they draw it and everything and what they truly want to be. And I find that great. Like one of the senpais wants to kind of make more childish books, wants to have more wholesome books, but she ends up drawing very etchiest characters and basically has a following in ecchi manga, even though that's not what she wants to be known for. And while our main character that we follow draws these cute, innocent characters, but she wants to draw more of the sexy characters. So there's that partnership with those two and how they want to. But like I said, it's just these girls just going through everyday things, you know, going shopping for supplies, learning from each other on how to do manga stuff, because one of the girls is more of a digital manga artist while the others are more analog. more manual, where they use the pens, the tones, and everything. So it was fun for her to try to learn on how to do it by hand versus the digital aspect. But it's a nice slice of life show that I think is not for everyone, but if you tend to watch shows like, I would say almost like New Game and stuff like that, where it's just a lot of girls just having fun working on a project with each other, you might like this show.
Yeah, for me, like, while I haven't really dropped it, there's kind of like a reason why I didn't go and catch up with the rest of the episodes in my massive list of like stuff that I'm watching for the season, because a lot of it's like secondary season stuff alongside new stuff. I would say that I do have intrigue in the story. Like, I do kind of want to know more of the scenarios that it comes up with, because I did kind of like the humor that it created. It's just not. It's more on my back burner kind of a thing. And one of the things that I didn't know if it was going to make or break the show for me was like the weird nervous like verbal tick that main protagonist has, that she does a lot. That laughy nervous thing that I can't replicate because I'm not a Seiyu.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
What? Maybe she stops doing it in episode 2 and plus. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe I liked it, and that's why I don't notice it. For some reason, some of the character laughs I just find interesting and fun. Like from Air, Misazu, she has this like kyahaha that I don't know why, I just love it. And even from OreAni, that gohehehe. I find those laughs very entertaining, so maybe I like that one. But
I like how each of the girls is kind of the personification of the manga that they draw. So you have the blue-haired girl who's really into shonen manga, and she acts just like a shonen manga character. And then you have the shoujo girl who's all into super cute stuff, and then the childish one is the 4 type thing. But what I'm really curious to find out is the legality of an underage person drawing the pervy manga. How is that legal exactly? Because isn't it 18 plus, the ecchi stuff? So how do they get around her being 16 or 17 years old and drawing it?
Hang on.
I don't know what the law is over there, but that's why I'm curious to find out.
I wonder, like, now that you say that, if her manga is not 18 plus, if the manga she makes is just really ecchi.
Oh, so
But
it's more
her doge, I think she sells
stuff?
doujinshi. That's the 18 plus, I think.
Yeah.
So that's more.
Because what is it? Cheese, Shokomi, and there's another one that's marketed at teenage girls that's kind of smutty, but it's not full on, porn. So maybe that's what she's drawing?
Maybe I have to take another look at that. I never took into account the age. I mean,
yeah, it's one of those things that I'm a little afraid to Google. So if there's anyone out there that's braver than I am, please let me know.
But have you been enjoying it? It's been fun.
I have, yeah. It's cute. I tend to watch it after the more darker, serious stuff. It's kind of a nice, relaxing little show to watch, and I find the interactions between the girls really cute, and they're all real likable too. Is that sometimes the moe cute girls can be a little annoying for me personally, but these guys haven't crossed that line yet, so I'm enjoying it.
I guess not much else to say about Comic Girls, right?
No.
Let's go to our next Magical Girls show, which I don't know. I saw the first episode and I was.
Oh my gosh, I love this show. I
Uh,
crack up so hard. My husband wanders out there and he goes, "What's so funny?" And I try and explain or just point to what's happening on screen, and he doesn't get it. So I don't know if it's because my sense of humor is so weird that it perfectly matches the show's sense of humor, or what exactly. But it just has me in stitches every week. I love it.
so here we have Maho Shoujo Ore.
What?
Ore.
Well, I mean, I originally opted on for this one, but do you want to take it away, Jessica, or no?
Oh, sure. So the basic premise is magical girls that turn into guys. So you start off with two teenage girls, who they do their magical thing, and they transform into men who are still wearing the magical girl outfit. And they have a couple magical items, which they just use to physically beat the demons, which look a lot like the weird aliens from Excel Saga way back in the day. At least that's what they reminded me of. And it's real tongue-in-cheek. It's extremely self-aware. It talks about the plight of the animators in about every other episode. It censors the violence so that all of the demons that are killed are just a pile of bloody mosaic pixels. And I mean, it sounds so dumb, but man, is it right up my alley. I really like the dumb humor. And I sent a picture of the two heroines, not sure what to call them, to one of my friends, and he's like, "Oh, thanks, Jessica. Now I need eye bleach." So, I don't know if maybe this show is more appealing to girls than it is to guys, because it's kind of emasculating to have them run around in the pink outfits. So maybe that's why my husband just didn't get it. I don't know what the psychology behind it is. But their little mascot character is not cute. He is a Yakuza who's just dialed up to a 9 as far as the language and everything. And everything about the genre, the magical girl genre, is turned on its head. But instead of Madoka's route of being all dark and dreary, it's just, let's take this as far as we can possibly go in the other direction.
Yeah, so this was one of the ones that really came out early in the series, and it is apparently based off web manga. I would almost assume that it was original just because it rather reminds me, with the initial humor, although this other show I'm going to correlate it to did not keep it up throughout its whole series. It reminded me a lot of that Love Tyrant one from a few seasons ago, just with how kind of tying into that Excel Saga type of humor. But this one, it I actually try to tell people about it as it's the inverse Camphor. Everything that Camphor tried to do, gender role reversal that.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really sure if I was gonna kind of watch it because at first I kind of skipped around wondering what it was, and I'm like, where's the gimmick here? I see it in the end catch, and it was kind of revealed at the end of the episode. But the more I watched, and kind of the more absurd everything was, it just kind of as a comedy, it just kind of worked. You can accept it because it's a comedy, and I always say Japan has a knack for trying to make complex love triangle shapes. This one's pretty darn funny because you have two characters who both gender swap, and there is a triangle to be made of that with relations to their alter personalities and other people, and it's just all funny to think of. And I can't really tell where it's really necessarily going, only because, kind of like you were saying, when the episode first started up, episode 1, you kind of had this like what turned out to be a dream sequence, but it kind of looked like it was going to be this fourth wall breaking magical girl thing. And then you kind of got the actual story. And then it focused on the actual story. And then it introduced a side character. And like the rest of that episode, or the beginning of the next episode, or the entirety of the next episode was like that side character and like that animator fourth wall breaking stuff, like dialed way up, while like kind of ignoring the main story at play. So I'm like, where is this thing going? Or is it going to then buckle down and just tell the rest of the story? Or is it going to be, not that I want to say inconsistent, but like, how much will it go off on its own tangent,
Mm-hmm.
and do other stuff? But I actually showed this to somebody else, like locally. Like, sometimes I just like sit a friend down and I just play like random moments. And this is kind of one of my go-to ones because I could quickly sell. Like I could just jump right to the end and show the big shebang gimmick right there. And it's kind of funny watching like everyone's like jaw drop. What the heck is this? And it was kind of funny because I actually had one person go like, this one's really weird, but I just might have to watch more of it just because. I'm like, yep, it's definitely the WTF show of the season, I would say.
It sort of reminds me of the Earth Defense Club Love, which did magical boys. They were all boys, and then they transformed into magical boys. So there wasn't the gender swap thing, but that one didn't really stick the landing because it turned into a bad guy of the week. And the joke got old because the whole premise of the show was, look how funny it is that we have boys transforming into magical boys instead of magical girls. But this one is a little different in changing up the formula. By going off on those tangents, it can prolong the funniness of the joke. But like Nick said, we'll just have to wait and see where it's going to go, because hopefully it doesn't get stale the way Earth Defense Club Love did.
So there's only one thing that I want to say about this show. I was watching it. I was enjoying it at the beginning of the first episode, but then the two girls started singing, and that Saki Uno was so bad. I was like, I can't listen to
That's
this.
why they're unpopular, I think.
Like the other girl had a good voice. It
explained their unpopularity well.
Yeah, I understand it. It was like, maybe show up for a few seconds, not as long as they did.
Oh my gosh. And there's one episode where they goes into their backstory and they're singing constantly and practicing, but that pink-haired girl does not get any better. And in a way, it's kind of sweet because it shows how much her friend really loves her to put up with the tone deafness of the character. I mean, that voice would drive most people to drink.
Speaking of voices, I also kind of like how we have like a sound effecty dialogue-y heavy character who like never speaks. Like we have to subtitle everything he wants to convey, and like people just kind of pick up on it, I guess. Who like only sings at time, and like that's one of the things that that slightly unsettles me about this series is like the lyrics that it comes up with, alongside like the talentless nature that it was trying to initially sell the two characters. When it does like sit down and sing, when like on the two in particular's idol group at the beginning, like their lyrics, I don't really know the lyrics of the other actually popular band. I haven't paid close enough attention. But like in that backstory, when the one character was singing, it's like, what the heck is this like song? Like what? But
so their idol unit's the only thing that's keeping me wanting to say no to this. And now that I heard that they sing more Jessica, I'm kind of afraid to watch. So, let me see here. Hey, Albert, how's it going?
Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Doing okay. I'm not in my usual place, and I'm calling in from my phone, so interactions might be slightly limited, but I'll try to catch up.
All right. So we were just talking about Mahou Shoujo Ore. I see that you saw Comic Girls. Did you want to add anything to that, or?
No, not at this time.
Okay. So next up, we got. So I think we're done with Ore, right? We got. How do you say that? Dore-ku, the animation.
I think that's
Yeah,
right.
that's about right. So this one, I just wanted to like talk about it. I'm not necessarily recommending it, but like after I dissected it, like so it's called Dore-ku, the animation. It premises around, you know how anime likes to have that conditional, hey, me and you are going to bet on us playing a game and we're going to play stakes on winning and losing. And you have games like No Game, No Life and the children, troublesome children come from the sky, where like the world mechanic itself enforces the games. And then you have other anime like, well, Yu-Gi-Oh! And that like compulsive gambling one where you just kind of like have to live up and own up to your own stakes, and like it kind of counts on you being a good person to see that through and whatnot. Then along comes Dore-ku, the animation, which introduces what's known as an SCM, which looks like a weird neon-y glow in the dark, like kind of a retainer, but like it's in the little baggie that it comes in, it has a lock on it because look, there's a gimmick to this thing, so it almost looks like a bondage retainer. But the gimmick in this show is if you wear that retainer, they explain this later in the upcoming episodes, but there's a link together cell phone app where you can like pull up a map, and on that map it shows you other people who also have this retainer thing in. And this retainer interacts from your mouth with your brain in such a way that when you agree and play stakes on any game that you agree to play, it's somehow like, not that the device itself is smart, it's just more of a psychological tick kind of gimmick where once you like recognize that you lost, the game sets the winner as a master and the loser as a slave. And the master can issue any command short of ending that person's life, and the slave, the device, like it literally explains it in the show as it amplifies the wearer's sense of obligation, and they are compelled to follow the order of the person that they've lost to. And you know, there's some catch calls here where like you can release the person, you could say you're free, and then they're just free. Apparently, if you enslave someone who is a master themselves with subsequent slaves, you take over that whole chain of ownership there. That all said, it's not a good show. It has a small cast of characters with a ton of interlinked stories that it's taking its time to tell. But I kind of like it for its absurdity. Like in one of the episodes, somehow for some reason there is a dog wearing one of these retainers, and they have to like very lightly and quickly cover the issue of what happens if the dog takes ownership of a person. Like, oh my god, how does that work? And they don't focus on it for too long. But one of the things that I forgot to explain in the mechanics of this thing is you're like, well, if this device like has this weird context of slave and master stuff, like why not just take it out? Well, back into that enhanced feeling of obligation, the device kind of hooks into your brain and develops almost like an addictive substance reliance on keeping it in your mouth. If you are only under the condition of a slave, a master can take it out, and you can only take the device out as a slave under short bursts before you feel compelled to put it back in. And they were like saying like there is such an addiction to this device that if the person prolongedly does not keep it in, whether I think it's because I think it's going for an angle of what happens if someone else takes away their device, like they don't have a sense of someone else took it away, it's out of my control. well, literally no one really knows at this time what will happen, but they foresee it as like potentially actually causing like psychological damage and like breaking the person. But that being said, this is kind of more of a mature series. It does have overtones of violence and sexuality in a lot of the orders. So like I can't recommend it for everybody, but it's an interesting, mature take on a common theme that I saw in anime, and that's, hey, me and you are going to play a game, and we have to like just kind of own up to our own stakes, kind of the thing, you know? Like you've seen that done a ton, but that's essentially Doreku, the animation so far. I don't know where it's going. Something that I will actually say and give away in episode 1 that kind of makes it somewhat more interesting. Not that I'm recommending to go and check this out at all, especially if you didn't drop it. I'm not saying pick it back up. But in the early episode 1, we actually have a character who knows about this SCM stuff, who is looking for a partner. And not because they want to make like a slave or a master out of the other partner, which is usually everybody's motivation in the rest of the show. But once he like settles on this person who has what he recognizes as a very sharp, intuitive individual, he literally says, I'm going to go out and play this game. I'm going to pay you like, I don't know, $10,000, and you're going to be my insurance. What I mean is, if I play this game and lose to anybody and become a slave, it is your job to then don of the device and come try to rescue me from what would normally befall people using the device just because. So, like, you have this traveling pair who try to confuse other users because they present as two people who have, like, the device, but usually only the one guy's ever wearing it. And it's really, like, I don't know what angle it's going to have there, but since they set it up, I hope they're going to make a really good story to it. But I don't know if they actually will.
So why would anyone, what's the reason that people would enter into this competition? Is it monetary?
No, or just an underground thing. It's not a competition. It's because, like, literally when the device first started hitting the underground black market, it was only about $10. But when it was found out by anybody using it that this is literally not a gimmick, it's an actual device, it's, you know how some people have like a gambling addiction? It kind of plays on that sense. And like some people just get empowered by this. Like it is their goal. They think they're hot stuff. They're going to go out and get themselves a bunch of slaves and never get enslaved themselves because they are the, you know, apex alpha predator that they just want people that they can issue commands and they will have to follow suit. Like that's usually the motivation here. Is or like use case sometimes, like in a lot of stories you'll have, like especially murder mysteries or other dramas on TV about murders where sometimes there's just a character that you kind of want, like in these types of shows that you want kind of killed, and that's like the whole murder mystery element, you know, NCIS, whatever. And you are looking into who did it, like what person was fed up with this other person and why. And for some people, this is kind of like a legal way to not exactly kill someone, but like if you're really angry at somebody, like, and you would rather have them dead, it's some character's motivation to make a slave of that person instead of taking the risk to kill them. Because like, while one you can end up in jail for, this underground sporty thing, you don't really get in trouble for. You just take on the risk of losing yourself. And yeah.
Sounds strange.
It is, and I just wanted to say that what I did say was, you know, it's a gambling game with stakes, but it's a little bit different than a lot of the other typical shows that I've seen in every iteration thus far.
Are the games at least crafty or witty, or are they just...
No, it's, you know, some people resort to rock, paper, scissors.
Oh,
some
geez.
people, some people gosh, what was one of it? I forget what some of them are, but one of the guys, like just because I want to show like how dark and the undertones of the series. There is a guy who hates following orders and is in this game to make himself a bunch of slaves. He comes across a group of a master and a slave, and it's his goal to take them both over by targeting the master. So he thinks he figures out who the master is, and he picks the person up, and he literally starts like assaulting the person. And in the process of assaulting the person says, hey, agree to a punch out game, or like blackmailing them into agreeing to a game that they were already going to lose because they're held by the neck and getting a face full of punches from the guy, and he's basically saying verbally enter a game that you are going to lose or else this other person's going to become involved. So the sky's the limit with whatever game you come up with, whether it's one that the pair that actually was in this thing. That game was, they were kind of a group of girls. I'm withholding a certain fact at this time, but the game that they came up with was there's two guys who are hitting on them, and they were going to basically go out on like a double date with these two guys, and the contest was whichever guy spent the most money on the respective girl, like the highest amount sum spent on them was the stakes for winning the game. It's craziness.
Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to the next title. What's this show? I don't know anything about this.
You should.
Koyo or yeah. Kakurio no Yodomeshi?
It's kind of like a Beauty and the Beast story. And I'm a sucker for Beauty and the Beast, so I'm loving this. And the basic premise is a young woman, college age. Her grandfather recently passed away, and she has the gift to be able to see yokai. And so she'll feed them, and she's gotten really good at cooking because she thinks that a hungry yokai is probably going to try and eat a human being. So if she feeds them, she can prevent them from hurting anyone. Well, anyway, it turns out that her grandfather owed a lot of money to an oni that runs an inn for these yokai and spirits in the spirit world. And he put his granddaughter up as collateral. So the oni comes to collect and whisks her away to this separate world where he says, you're pretty much going to marry me. And she says, no, I'm not going to do that. I'll work to pay back the debt. And so she's in the process currently of setting up a little bistro or eatery alongside the inn that will cater to the tastes of the many yokai that are guests there. And I like it because a lot of times these heroines tend to be pretty passive. And while this particular heroine isn't, super duper strong or anything, she doesn't put up with crap. So she basically tells the oni that she's going to pay back the debt her way, and there's nothing he can do about it. And she sticks up for herself. So, of course, she gets picked on by one of the female spirits there because that spirit is jealous and wants to marry the owner of the inn. And instead of doing the typical shoujo thing of, oh, taking care of the person and, oh, how it's all my fault and blah, 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 she just basically says, I don't like you, but I'm going to help you out when you're feeling low. And she doesn't really, let her push her around. So I'm enjoying this show, and I think that anybody that likes that kind of shoujo type thing would probably really enjoy this one.
So are you talking about, when you talk about strong characters, are you talking about like a character like Nike from that Rain? That girl that calls the Rain?
I mean,
I don't know what character you're talking about.
I know who he's talking about, and I'm not super current with this show. I wouldn't say she's as strong-willed, and
no,
because like in that show, the character helped the romantic interest in it, if you will, in you know, the contrived, not maybe contrived, but in the arrangement of the marriage there. It was kind of like how she helped the other person become a better person, and that's not immediately obvious about this series. Like, kind of like as Jessica was saying, it's just it really looks like it's going to be a shoujo story about someone taking their fate into their own hands instead of just letting the you know, the being taken as collateral go easily. But like, it's still going to be like a romantic story. Like, you know, I'm not saying that it's I will get myself freed. It's still going to have its romance story that it tells.
So,
yeah, they're totally destined to be with each other, but
so more or less, more like a Akagami no Shirayuki Hime.
Perhaps.
kind of, yeah. I thought Yuki was pretty strong.
But one of the things that I know you specifically like a lot, and this was like really prevalent in episode 1, I'm not sure how consistently it's going to be used in the rest of the series, but a lot of the Oni in the initial episode had like that face mask stuff that you like a lot.
I do?
No, Tank does.
Oh, okay. I didn't think okay.
Yeah, no, he totally likes that like whole face mask stuff, and
yeah, that's
so
my.
I thought you would have checked, huh?
That's my goal when I go to Japan, is to get myself an Oni mask.
Well, you'll be right at home here then.
Actually, I like more of the fox mask. You know, like
There's a character all about that. Well, kind of.
I like him too, the nice fox. He's a cutie. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this for fans of shoujo. It's one of the better ones out there. The heroine, I don't feel that she's meant to be the typical stand-in for the viewer that a lot of the otome games are, where the character is a blank slate. Is that this character actually has a past and a personality, and you want to root for her rather than pretending that you are her, if that makes sense.
all right. Albert, do you have anything to add, or? Maybe he's in a loud place. I think I actually might pick this up then. I didn't know what it was going to be about, so I didn't really try it yet. But I like those other shows, so I'll probably enjoy this show too. Next up, we have, which I don't know why I chose this title, but give me a second. These title cards are so hard to find sometimes. Leighton Mystery Tantasia Kaitri no Nazo Toki File. Yeah, my Japanese is really bad. So I picked up this show, and it looks like I think I'm the only one watching it. And the only reason I picked it up because I had no idea what it was going to be about, and I just started watching it. And it's about this female that her name is Leighton. She runs this detective agency, and every day, you know, a new problem comes up and she solves it. So it's very straightforward, very simple. Obviously a kid's show. So she's actually the daughter of another famous detective, which has the same name. So it seems that first they come for the father, but then she's like, nope, I'm Leighton here. I'm going to be taking care of things. So, and she has her sidekick and a dog that for some reason is able to talk, but only very few people can understand the dog. And it just happens that Leighton and the assistant are able to hear what the dog says, and everyone else can't. So the dog will be talking and doing some narrating and saying some stuff as they're trying to solve the mysteries. And of course, no one else can hear him. And it's kind of funny because she'll be talking to the dog, and people are like, "What are you saying? what's going on. They don't understand it. But it's pretty straightforward. Half the episode is they're given the mystery. She goes around and starts doing the investigation. And as they go through the investigation, they'll show you key points. Like they're like, hey, why is this rug like this? And then they'll go to a cutscene where it shows key point, the rug. And then it continues on with the investigation. Oh, this guy has this special cuffling. What's this cuffling? And they'll talk about it. Then all of a sudden, again, cutscene where it goes key point, the cuffling or whatever. So it has a lot of these things where it kind of wants you to follow along with the investigation and see if you can come up with the answers to why this mystery happened. But so far, I've been 0 for 0. So I'm not really a detective material, I guess. But it's enjoyable. The characters have a very strange design compared to any other characters I've seen in anime, especially with every single character having a super strong nose in their designs. If you ever check it out, you'll see it. A lot of them have that. But the only other thing that annoys me is that Layton has this hat. It's a small little hat that's attached to a hairband, it looks like. So whenever she takes off the hat, you'll see the hairband connected to it, and she'll hang it. But every once in a while, she'll be able to take off the hat without the hairband. And that's just, I don't know why, it just bugs me. But other than that, it's been really fun. Albert did share some information last week when we were talking about it, about this famous person. I can't remember what he was. Was he a shogi player? Or who was it? I don't know if Albert was listening.
It was a retired shogi player.
Yeah, a retired shogi player, I guess, is going to make an appearance in one of the episodes as a voice actor for a computer.
Correct.
And in the 4th episode. So unfortunately, I haven't seen the 4th. I've only seen the first 3, so I haven't got to hear his superb voice acting role. But I'll be sure to check that out at least. But it's kind of fun how they're getting a little bit of information like that. I'll share the site. I think, Albert, did you share it on their Anime Talk thing? Community?
I'm not sure.
Well, we'll put a link to the thing. It's all in Japanese, but looks like Google can translate it at least decently. I can read some of it, so it's a nice article. Other than that, it's just a kid's show. It's not bad. It's not great, but I don't know where you would watch this. I had to find it and acquire it without streaming it, so I don't know what medium it's going to be on, but hopefully you guys can watch it at some time. But yeah. Next up, we'll go with Last Period. Honestly, I find this show great. Nick, what did you want to talk about it?
Alrighty, so this show, Last Period. I honestly watched the majority of the first episode, and I didn't really pick up on the gimmick until the end, which I'm going to take my due time to slowly explain here. So we pretty much meet a protagonist of or a set of characters who are part of a guild, which it's kind of like the Adventurer Guild kind of a deal. There's an enemy laced throughout the land called the Spiral, and the warriors who fight these spirals are called periods for whatever reason. I don't know. And towns will submit requests of the gilded warriors to come out to their town and defeat the demon spirals that have taken, are causing some problem in their town. And that's really the world it kind of builds. However, we quickly find out that this is a really gimmicky story because the guild that are like what 4 or 5 main protagonists. I forget how many there are because one's just kind of like breaks the fourth wall of the time. Their guild, someone stole like the treasury of. Like they lost all their funds, they plummeted into bankruptcy, and the overall guild disowned their branch, saying, "Well, sucks to be you, you're out." So all the people who were a part of this specific branch left it, except for the core cast of characters who are the protagonist of the show. And the branch leaders are basically there saying, "Hey, we're still going to try to get some quests for you guys. Will you help us make the money back so we can be an official guild again? It's going to be rough. We're not going to live like a life anything but of poverty until this happens. But will you do that with and for us?" And they kind of go, "Yeah, sure." And, they get a quest and they go on the quest. And what the true gimmick of this show is then kind of revealed. As they're fighting demons, like carriages appear with I don't know if they have a specific name or not, but the whole thing is it's kind of linking into a like a cell phone game, and its source is based off a game. Now I don't know if it is an actual cell phone game out there in the Japanese market or if it aligns with a console, but the funny element of the show is it kind of breaks the fourth wall with people who've played a lot of those games, and it makes fun of a lot of the mechanics that I kind of know what they're talking about. Most of the time it's just like your summoning luck, because like the main protagonists of the series have a chance to summon a 1 to 5 star character to help them out in battle that then becomes a permanent part of their team that they leave back at the home base for whatever reason. But like it plays up the humor on that whole like gaming genre at large in every single episode that I think I've seen thus far. Like every episode, like somebody's going, like 2 summons are going to happen usually, or at least 1, or like rarity star characters are going to be revealed. And like I a lot of the times, like it's like really intrinsic stuff. Like in one of the more recent episodes that I've seen, there was an event character who was drawn by somebody, and their logic was, you might have a rare character, but we have an event character, and right now nothing can beat an event character because it's in the event that's going on right now. And it's like, oh, ha ha ha, I know those games that do stuff like that. So I'm having a lot of enjoyment because, as I said, I've tried a lot of those Japanese games that have been brought over, and I can personally recognize like the elements of dialogue that they're specifically making fun of, and like down to some of the unique things that certain games have tried to do when it comes to like giving backstory to some characters and whatnot, alongside the premise of the story here of we're trying to rebuild our guild. And it actually, like, to give you guys a small spoiler just to how ridiculous the show is, because it's not over the top funny comedy, but like every town that they go to, like the mayors are all like Nurse Joy, right? They all look the same throughout every town. It's like, I don't know why the mayor is always the same, but their town is thematic to something. You have like a hot spring town, a town in poverty or something. And apparently, I think this is hard for them to translate, but they try their darndest. A lot of the mayors of those towns integrate the overall theme of their town into puns in their dialogue. And this is where I think it breaks down a little bit, because I don't think you can clearly translate these puns, so that the translators try to come up with their own puns to include. And since I don't know Japanese that well, I can't say like if the puns are being accurately represented or not. Not that it really matters though. But yeah, in one of the recent episodes, like they came into a fortune, like the protagonist of the show. So like certain characters got super rich. One of them, like help the branch return to normal. And it's like, okay, where are we going to go from here? Because like I hope that I have a feeling that they're going to lose all this money somehow, and we're just going to have the rest of the episodes be, you know, like everyone thus far. But like a part of me was actually kind of hoping that it would somewhat normally resume and tell like a different, not as quirky story. And you know, it totally happened. Everybody like had their money stole from them. Spoiler for if you're watching the show. I'm sorry. I was like, dang it. Like I wanted the show to change up some bit. And there are a few other anime tropes that this show falls back on. Like there's this like Team Rocket entity. Since I brought up Pokemon earlier, I'll correlate them into this. That shows up in every episode. That's kind of like the rival to our main group, but they're not purely an antagonist, but they kind of mostly are. So I guess kind of like that actually. But they are. Their group name is like Wisemon, is who they are. And one thing that infuriates me in every episode is the three of them say the name Wisemon, but one of them says like Y, the other one goes Zuma, and then the one last character goes, And it doesn't really work. Like I don't hear Wisemon and what they're doing. Like you should have totally did Y Zumon, and it would have been a lot better, but it quirks it gets me every episode.
I think I can understand why they did it the way they did. Because the last girl that's supposed to do the N, she never talks.
I know. I realize that, but still.
So
it gets me.
They got that. What do you call those? The three monkeys, where one's covering the ears, one covers their eyes, the other one covers their mouth.
Oh yeah.
So those two characters kind of represent them. One has their eyes covered, one has their mouth covered, one has their ear covered. And even when they're introducing themselves, they cover those parts.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I forget what the name, that symbolic name of those are, but it's I know what you're talking about. I actually didn't make that correlation until you pointed it out. I just know the one character never talked.
Yeah, she always has a monkey that talks to her on her head.
Because like the other characters don't like play the rest of the gimmick. Like I think the one with the headphones always hears, like she's not deaf, and the one who has her like eyes usually covered isn't like blind, you know? So I think that's why I didn't pick up on it. But now that you point that out, it's like I could see a little bit better, but I still don't like it. But it's a gimmicky show, and as I was kind of saying, there's four main three characters who adventure out, and they're like the combat force of this. But there's also another character who always tags along, and her name's like Choco for whatever reason, like chocolate. But she's like just there for fourth wall breaking commentary. Like that's her whole row in this anime. Never really provides much for the most part, except snide breaking the fourth wall comments. So it's kind of like, it's a quirky, gimmicky show that I'm not going to tell everybody go out there and watch. It's great, but if you've played a lot of those like free to play smartphone games, you might find a lot of humor in this show. Just if you've played a lot of those in particular, and like you've always wanted to try them, because I kind of did that back in the day myself. Like whenever we got a new one, I learned about it real quick and wanted to get in and play it and try its mechanics, see if it was any good, and then fall off playing it months later. So.
Here, I'm sharing the picture of the Wiseman. You see. I'll just say I think I like them the best compared to the actual main characters. But yeah, I'm enjoying the show a lot. It's I just like the jokes they make about mobile gaming quite often, and like every time they want to do the gacha, I think they started making jokes about how you shouldn't use the gacha all the time, that you shouldn't put money into it or else you'll go bankrupt.
Yeah. And like that's really kind of weird about this show, because like it has that separation between in-game currency and like real money currency, but it's hard to represent in the series because like the characters make in-game money like whenever they do a quest, but they're like, you can't buy summons with that money. It's only like actual yen, because like they have like this zenny thing, a common money thing that many anime use that they earn, and like that's the currency of their world. But they're like, no, you can't use that stuff. You have to use this yen stuff to do these summons. Well, how do we get that stuff? Like if we can't buy it,
Yeah, that was also pretty interesting, I thought too. And like with you, I'm with you about the whole puns. I don't know how great they're doing it or how they translated it, but the subtitling they do works, and it's great to me. So I don't know if they're translating word for word. I highly doubt it, but the way they're doing the translations to make those puns come across are doing great. So I really enjoy this show. I just don't understand that girl that's always with him that's dressed in white.
She just there to like make the commentary to break the fourth wall. That's her primary purpose in the show. Why they wanted to have a character like that, hard to say.
Yeah. So next up we have. Oh, you can't see that at all, can you? Devil's Line. Can't see that title. Oh well. Let me see if I can put the wall right there. Yeah. We have Devil's Line. Jessica?
Oh, I'm not really sure where to start with this one. The premise is that there are vampires. They're called Oni, or translated as devils in this series, that go crazy into a frenzy when they smell human blood or what have you. And a young college student ends up getting embroiled in various vampire activities and falls in love with a half vampire. The animation's really bad. Like, really bad. There's a lot of still shots, slow pans, recycled things. I don't feel that the anime really believed, or the anime crew really believed in the source material, just judging by the way it's all put together, very slipshod. And, vampires really aren't my thing. But I can see where if a person did like vampires, then this would be a mildly interesting show. But it's kind of like what Nick said about the Doreiku one, is that it's not a good show, and I wouldn't recommend it really. But I'm going to keep watching it and see where it goes. It promises to be pretty violent, which is always cool, but I don't really know what else it offers. There's far more better things out there this season to watch than this.
My initial impression of it, because I've fallen a little behind with this one. It's just not on my, like, I'm immediately going to grab the newest episode, like, attached kind of anime list. But if I don't have to drop anything towards the end of the season just to make up for weekends that I become busy and can't get like a bunch of episodes watched of stuff, my first impression of this show was literally, oh, it's trying to be Tokyo Ghoul. Like, yes. You kind of have that element of society where, but like it's a little bit different, because in Tokyo Ghoul, the ghouls are in hiding. Like, they are not mainstream society. They have to live in the shadows. They have to hunt in the shadows. And the stark difference in this show is we acknowledge the vampires as people too. Like, we have to try to have them coexist with us. We have we have a unique police force that deals with the incident involving these guys. But one of the kind of interesting things it tried to do, at least I remember in like the early episode or two, was like they had strict laws about living together. And like one of them was like if you married a member of the opposite, like, you know, if a human got with a vampire, like you could not do the deed. Like they literally came out and said that that was not going to happen. And one of the initial comments in the show that kind of not impressed me but made me go, oh, this is different, is they're like, hey, we're undergoing a new law where we're going to allow that to happen from now on. Like the government will recognize that we can try to allow these relationships to go that extra step further, and we're going to try managing that and, you know, seeing what happens. So it's kind of interesting only in the fact that like the monsters that people know to exist out there, and I'm more talking about Tokyo and ghouls in this aspect, are more front and center mainstream media regulated than they are just hunted. So I was like, well, it's kind of got that going for it, because like the characters who are the vampires who are I'm correlating to the ghouls, you know, they have the same thing where they don't technically need to eat people to get by, but whenever they are in the presence of blood, it kind of sends them into an uncontrolled frenzy. Like that odor, that sight, it just messes with them and they kind of lose themselves to their instinct, kind of an issue where it's not that they are hungry and need to eat. It's if they incidentally ever see human blood, you know, there's going to be something going down because vampires are vampires.
I have a question, because unfortunately I was doing something else while I was watching this show because it didn't really seem like it was going to get me interested in it. So I missed a lot of information on that first episode. But it seemed like vampires didn't really drink blood, but once they did, that's why they started doing crimes or something like that. So, am I correct? And that's what it was saying.
Kind of. Yeah, I mean, so I just watched the newest episode that came out, and there's a character who's introduced there, and he claims that a vampire can develop a tolerance to blood so that they don't frenzy if they just take a little bit at a time and sort of build up a resistance to it. The hero also wears a kind of a gas mask that prevents him from smelling the blood, and it also glasses that prevent him from seeing the color. So these vampires are very sensitive folk, where if they even so much as see the blood, that they'll frenzy. So it's going to be interesting to see where exactly they're going with that. Is it truly possible for a vampire to build up a resistance like this character said? And if so, why haven't more people done this?
Yeah, and I think furthermore, if I recall correctly from the series, what its angle kind of was you know, a vampire, like if you were a vampire, you knew you would frenzy if you see blood. And while if you cause an incident, they do have to like not like kind of imprison, but like they don't necessarily have to put the vampire down. I think didn't they like send him to like a rehab kind of a thing?
Yeah, but we don't know if it's rehab or they send him to the Great Blood Bank in the sky, or if it's a legitimate place that tries to rehabilitate them. We don't know yet.
Because I think there was a character who was like a rehabilitated one, and like there was a momentary story about that, I believe.
And we also find out that if a vampire doesn't drink blood, that their lifespans are greatly reduced.
Okay.
And that was in the newest episode. So that's
okay.
That's a little more information that they're trickling out to us.
It's all right.
But the mythos, I'm not really sure, because they call them Kyuketsuki, which is vampire, but they also call them Oni, which is ogre. And then in English, it's translated to devil. And the title of the show is Devil's Line. So it's a little hard to parse where exactly they're drawing the mythos from, because are these vampires, do they grow older? Are they eternal? What are they exactly? And I think that the show needs to nail this down and give us the boundaries of the world for a lot of this stuff to make sense. Because right now it hasn't really done that.
Do these vampires sparkle in sunlight? I'm
No.
sorry.
I knew someone was going to bring that up.
You have to, right?
So the next obligatory question is it a better love story then?
Oh, of course.
All right, so that was Devil's Line. Not really recommending it, but I don't know. Maybe if you like vampires.
I would honestly say,
if you're vampires, you may get more enjoyment out of this than I am.
like, because the quality's not here, I can't make this recommendation in good faith, but in my opinion, if Tokyo Ghoul was really your jive, and you wanted more of, instead of the main protagonist, because like the point of Tokyo Ghoul was you always had that inner conflict of the main character, this kind of tries to spin that more like romance shoujo angle, right? just saying, like, not technically shoujo, but like it's mostly from the perspective of the human who is interacting with a half human, half vampire. So it kind of dives into that like relationshipy stuff more so than the edginess of Tokyo Ghoul. So if you kind of wanted a story like that, but be forewarned, it's not as pretty as Tokyo Ghoul. Like when it comes to the combat is usually just like superhuman strength kind of stuff instead of the gimmicky back weapon stuff. Yeah. So, like, I think anybody who is into that kind of a show can give this one a go and just see if it's something that they want to pursue. It is honestly what the angle I would try to come from in trying to get fans into it. Not that that's a good one.
All right, let's just go to a show that actually does have a good love story, maybe. 3D Kanojo.
Mm-hmm.
Or what is that? Real Girl?
Yep.
Yeah. So, who needs 3D when you have a 2D waifu? I'm sorry. So, I just moved this up since it seems like all of us have talked or watched this. So, and that kind of surprises me. So, what's so good about this show? Why are people watching it?
I'm watching it just because it's a cute little love story about a first romance with a completely clueless individual as the hero. And it's fun to watch him kind of flounder around and make the typical mistakes that you do with your first love. And how he and his buddies are trying to relate their knowledge of the 2D universe to 3D. I really like the scene in the most recent episode where he was having problems with his real girlfriend, and so he was trying to play a dating sim to figure out, okay, how do I navigate this? And he got a bad ending in the dating sim, and he's just, oh, women are so complicated. And I thought it was pretty funny, especially because most dating sims are written by men trying to figure out how women think. So it's unintentional.
No, most of them exist to sell fan service. I mean, let's get real.
Yeah. But I just thought it was cute that he did some research with dating.
Yeah, no, I get you. Yeah, like this show is totally the watered down high school form of the other one from the season, the Wotaku ni Koi wa Muzukashi.
I haven't seen that one yet, so is it good? Should I see it?
I like it a lot better. I think I'd really recommend it to you if you're watching this, especially.
Okay, cool. I'll give it a whirl.
There's a few differences, but
oh yeah, no. Like there is, but I just like a lot of the scenarios that one weaves more so than this one, and that's something in particular that I would enjoy hearing like at a later time from you. Like, what did you think of that in comparison to this specifically, Jessica? But anyway, yeah, Yeah, this is the story of an otaku character who gets noticed by a real girl and somehow ends up in a relationship with her. And I'm really upplaying the somehow. Like, it's not as contrived as it sounds, but it does paint that picture of, you know, personality. Not that I'm saying personality doesn't matter, but you have this character who latches onto, oh, at the core, that person's a really good guy, and that's why he's such a catch, even though he's this kind of hopeless otaku. And that's largely kind of what the script relies around. This is the first time a guy is kind of like not even leaving his otaku nature, but is venturing into this realm that he didn't think he would be venturing into anytime soon. Like he was, called other people the normies, and he didn't really associate with them, and he wasn't anticipating getting into the dating scene anytime soon. So it is really trying to upplay the story of, the first time for this protagonist. It's in something that he's completely not used to, and he's going out with someone who is a lot more romance oriented. So although she's, see, this is why it's so difficult to explain, but she's not holding it against the main protagonist, but is sometimes kind of at a loss for like how removed from the dating scene he is. You know what I mean?
So, to me, when I'm watching this show, and I agree with you with the guys, brand new to this, having a hard time with it, and even to the point where he's like, "This guy's my best friend. I can't just stitch him for this new thing I got." Right?
Mm-hmm.
They have a little thing like that, but also it seems like on the girl side, it's kind of like she's always been in bad relationships, and bad stuff's happened to her, and she's kind of going to him to try to change it to get that nice guy. But unfortunately, because she's leaving in 3 months, she decides, or I can't remember how long she was leaving, right? She's going to be transferring. So she decides to just go on a whim and see what this guy can do. Because
I think she has a strong sense of justice, though, because the hero's friend is always wearing the little Nekomimi cat ears everywhere, and he gets picked on a lot. And so when they were in the McDonald's and some girls were picking on them, she kind of laid down the burn and rescued them, and then told him that his cat ears were cute. So she's a caring person, but I haven't quite really figured out her yet. She's a hard character to wrap your head around because she keeps a lot inside.
Yeah, because she does a lot of things that I question why she would do that. Is it because she doesn't trust him, or maybe because she knows she's going to be leaving, she doesn't want to open up too much, but she just wants someone there?
Perhaps. I mean, she has a reputation, a bad reputation, and she doesn't have any friends, so it could be that she's not as experienced as she's letting on. Yeah. So it could be she's fumbling around because she's never really had a friend, really, because the other girls hate her because of her bad reputation.
So I think that's why I enjoy this show so much, is because there's a lot still to wonder about it. There's a lot going on that you still can't get your hand on. And continuing to watch it, I get some more character growth on both of them, and see how things turn out. Even you can kind of see some growth with the guy, even with him making kind of friends with the other classmate.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So it's very interesting to me when stuff like that happens. Like, she hates him, she doesn't like him, but as soon as they start talking about something that they can kind of relate with each other, she realizes it's like he's not gross because I always thought he was gross because he's an otaku, but there's actually something that we can talk about,
Yeah, and he starts learning how to bake, which I thought was super sweet. She made some little comment about, oh, I like men who can bake or men who can cook, because that's real
There was
nice.
like that Food Network channel that was really
Yeah,
popular.
the PA Prince or something, and I thought that was sweet. I mean, it's coming from a place of insecurity a little bit, but also the fact that he's trying to better himself is endearing.
So that's the only thing I think I like about this show, that compared to the one that Nick was recommending, because it seems like this show has a lot of room for growth, while the other one doesn't seem to focus on growth. It just focuses on
their relationship, because they're
the relationship as otakus, while this one's developing the people.
Yeah, because the other one, they're like totally office workers, so like it's far removed from the high school scene, and it just has much more of a mature story to it. Whereas this one's, didn't say that correctly. Seishun. It's you.
Yeah.
So this one's selling that youthful spirit kind of somewhat hard, and that's not a bad thing. It's enjoyable to watch those stories a lot of the time because it kind of like just it further develops people's opinion of kind of like the dating scene. Like there's no right or wrong way for it. It's about like how characters just kind of, how relationships kind of develop and go from where they started. And that's usually what a lot of like, I don't know, I don't watch soap operas, but I assume like there's a lot of just the drama scenarios that they come up with kind of expands people's worlds in some way. And this is one, it's kind of like what I was saying earlier, a guy who's somewhat not coming out of his otaku shell, but having to enter this new playing field, and his girlfriend just happens to be not your typical like teenage girl, but still more aligned to that kind of a mentality. Like even though she has that bad reputation and she doesn't want to make a lot of friends, like she's not the popular character, but like it's just a love story centered around youth.
Yeah, so if you want to go shoujo love story, I think this is the one. If you just want to have a fun otaku show, the other one, I think. But I'm probably going to continue watching this one. I don't know. Albert, are you there? You have anything to say about 3D Girl?
Sorry, my connection's bad. You're all pretty breaking up, so I don't think I can comment reliably.
Understood.
But it's a good show.
All right. So let me see here. We got one more title here on our list that we want to get through.
Dude, you totally skipped one of my titles, like with an actual vote to it.
I know. I was trying to get to some other people,
I gotcha. I thought that's what you meant, like you were trying to figure when to end this or something.
No, I was trying to get the last card. Which, I don't know. I kind of want to watch it, but when I watch it, I'm like, I don't want to watch it. I don't know. It seemed like something I would watch, but when I tried to watch it, I didn't want to watch it. What do you call this again? Uma Musume? Pretty Derby?
Yes.
Is it a full 20-minute episode?
Yep.
Oh, dear.
Oh, yes. And again, this is a gimmicky show, but I wanted to show why I am particularly watching it versus why I am like recommending it. So this show I encountered a long time ago. It like existed as a trailer years and years and years ago. And, sometimes these trailers come out and it like the anime is upcoming and like within a year you'll be watching it. I forget when this one aired. And at the time I knew that it was from a like smartphone game app. And while I don't play it, I don't think it's in our market. I don't know if it's a good game or not. It seemed at least interesting because it tried to do the personification of horses, if you will, and the horse racing derby element. So kind of being exposed to that app game through this anime makes me kind of wonder how it was set up. And that, a lot of times it's what I like to do. But the cool thing here is this show is its own story. I don't think it really correlates to the game. I think it, built upon the characters and gave them a background that probably does not exist in the game, because I'm imagining it's a little bit more of like I don't know if it's a horse race bet kind of a gimmick, or if I don't know, like, do you play against other players? Do you just have to play against computers? It doesn't matter. So in this series, you have Uma Musume, or as bad as it sounds in English, like Neko Musume you're used to, the cat daughters, the horse daughters, or I'm going to call it daughters because it's Musume instead of girls, follow a lineage of people. Like, I don't know if horses ever existed in this series. Like, it's hard to say, but some people have been born for whatever reason with like horse ears and tail, and they could run really fast. They are the embodiment of horse people. And Japan built this, Kentucky Derby style racing element around it, where I don't think horse racing is that popular in Japan. Anybody who knows more than I do, absolutely call me out on it. I can't say I've heard much news from horse racing and Japan. But this anime really sells it like, it's the big sport, like if you're into it. And they have a school that's set up to train and to train elegant participants of this realm. Like, if you were born as the Uma Musume, you can totally run these races. And, men and women alike show up to watch, and I don't know if they really place bets. It doesn't really sell like the gambling side a whole lot here, and that's fine. But one of the unique things about this show is most of the characters who are Uma Musume have like thematic names. Like, I actually don't know horse racing a lot in English, but you know how, like, if you've ever watched a race, how they have like gimmicky names, like the horses do, right? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? They correlate that to this show. The main protagonist of this show is called Special Week. That is her name. She has no other name. Like, it's not even just like a wrestler name where you take something that is not yours. It's like if you were born an Uma Musume, you just kind of inherited this weird name, kind of, again, is what it seems to me. And this series spends a good amount of time focusing on races, focusing on somewhat the development of characters, because they're all somewhat initially cookie cut, but then it does go a little bit beyond that and develop some characters. You see a lot of their personalities and having to grow to some extent. But one of the reasons that I actually do enjoy watching this one is because, and this is a little more use case for me, sometimes I watch anime at the gym. And it is difficult to watch drama shows. Anything not action I can do, but if I'm watching an actiony show like this show that has a lot of running, it just serves to kind of like as an inspiration to focus on like my performance at the gym as I'm watching this action-oriented running show. Like, it just kind of works, and I could get into a better pace watching something like this. And the big gimmick here too, aside from the horse racing, is the contestants that placed within the top three, first, second, and third place, have to do like an idol dance at the end of it. Like, they are on the winning platform, they do like an idol show. And one of the things that I've actually liked about the show thus far is it doesn't really focus on that. Like, I thought it was trying to be this, horse racing idol show hybrid, and it shows the idol shows getting set up in moments of them, but it doesn't do holistic performances, which I actually somewhat appreciate, because like I didn't want this mashup of an anime. Like, I think it works better. Maybe someone else out there wants to see like full fleshed out performances. Maybe it'll do that in the end. But it's that mix of running, and like it's a show that I would like to gravitate to when I'm at the gym, with an actually fairly decent story for what it is, with just something that's really like gimmicky Japan all the way. And I think the names too. The names really, I kind of like that element of the show where you have like, oh god, there's Gold Ship, there's Seishun Sky, there's Silence Suzuka. Like they have these gimmicky names, and I appreciate the show a little bit more because of that. Like they're not just the traditional Japanese names mostly at play here. So
actually, that's the big thing, that idol thing that made me go, I'm not watching this.
yeah.
So, like, the whole horse girls, the running, them training for running, that's okay. I can live with that. But when it went to the winners doing the whole idol thing, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, like I was kind of worried about that, but like it kind of shows the style. Like it never plays a full song, and that's, at least so far from what I recall, is it's never done a full performance. And I don't know why they haven't done it, but I do like the show that much more because it's just not that. Because I mean, I don't watch idol shows a lot. I gave one a try once upon a time. I might give another one a try once upon a time. But this is not that show, and I just wanted to at least bring that up. Like, you do not get a full song performed by the three winning characters at the end of every episode there's a big race in. It'll show clips of it, but not even like I said, not a full performance, and it very minimally focuses on that winning idol podium gimmick, which thumbs up.
Okay. Well, I may give it another shot then, but other than that, I mean, that was the biggest downfall for this show for me. I was like, ugh. Like, if it's an idol show, then I'm all for it. But to me, this wasn't supposed to be an idol show.
And yeah, it's really not. And that's what I'm appreciating about it.
So I may try it again, but it actually brought a certain nostalgia to another show. For the first episode, like I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called Kaleido Star, when the guy just looks at her thighs and everything and stuff. It reminded me of that old show, and I really liked it. But
he does that only every once in a while, and he always gets beat for it. So that's a thing. Like,
but it's funny how they try to add the horse traits to them. Like even when he was holding her thigh, she kicked him like as if you would kind of see a horse kick.
And that's something, the characters are somewhat thematic. The main protagonist, Special Week, loves carrots. There's total, I like how it's blended in though. But the funny thing with the trainer is, in a lot of these like smartphone games, I would assume it's gacha style, and like these characters you could have potentially earned in the game. And sometimes the show doesn't really represent the player that well. Like in the Ship Musume one, you know, you were, I don't know if you were a stand-in for the captain or not, but like the captain was never shown. Like they didn't make a character for him. Of the Kale anime, they always talked about the admiral or the captain guy, but they didn't really show him. They didn't really make a character out of him, you know what I'm saying? And in this show, there are teams set up in the school, and not like a school club, but like there's a trainer who forms a team, and any of the members of the student body can opt in to a team, and the trainer decides their training regimen and like if they were to implement strategy. The trainer is his own character in this show. He's not this faceless step in for the audience or the viewer. He has his unique views. He has his unique quirks, and one of his things is he kind of wants to cater the training to the unique style of anybody on his team, and he really wants to develop their own racing sense. Like instead of coming up with the strategy that's best for the character, he kind of wants to build a gut feeling with them, but he does cater the training to their personal strengths at the same time. Like he's not just all yeah, I'm not going to do strategy, just your gut feeling, go ahead with it. And it stands a little bit counter to one of the old teams that one of the roommate of the main protagonist, Silence Suzuka, came from this team that focused on uniform training, and the trainer of that had a strategy that she tries to get all characters to follow, because in her envisionment it's best for any Uma Musume member of her team. And we don't really see any other teams. It's more like that team is a rival team to our protagonist team. And you see a little bit of, some characters that type of training and mentality works for, and others it kind of harms. And that's where, like I said, there's a little bit of personality to the show. That's where Silence Suzuka really has a story, because she was always into racing because it's something that she, is a fun, like almost pastime. Like the races themselves are fun. Under the previous trainer, who had uniform training and a strategy that she asserted, racing kind of felt soulless and her performance suffered. And with the right trainer who, caters the training and allows them to come up with their own style, she's flourishing. And that's just kind of like, this show tries to tackle those elements, like how certain characters deal with loss, what happens when you eat too much rice, and it adds to your weight as a racing person. Like, it tackles not super complex topics, but enough to be its own show, in my opinion. Like, I'm a little bit more impressed with it than I initially thought I would have been. But I do still assert that it's one of the shows that I like watching, because like another one from this season, arguably, is the Yowamushi pedal. Like the people who ride on bikes, I can get pumped up for when I'm like running in place at the gym. But like for me, it's that show fulfills at least that, and I am actually surprisingly happy with the story thus far. Like, it's not on my list of back burner shows kind of a thing.
All right. So I think we have time for one more title. I want to ask Albert if he wants. Does he have a title he wants to cover real quick, or?
No, I don't.
Jessica, you have any other titles, maybe?
Not any I can think of.
How about you, Nick? Do you want to give one final call out to something? I guess we can end it here then.
If you want to pick something, I'll cover it in the list of stuff that I've watched that I've lined up toward the top. Anything that you might want to know my take on or just a little bit more about.
We'll just leave it at this.
Okay.
So that's it for the season, I guess. For the startup, I mean, there's still a lot more titles. I mean, there's so many coming out every season nowadays. But before we leave, check out 11arts.net for some movie titles that are going to be coming out between now and the end, like Haikara-san and something else I can't remember. Will be coming out in next month and the month after. So if you want to watch some anime in the theaters, check those out. They're more like shoujo-ish titles, I think, to me. But I know I'll catch at least one of them. So other than that, any other final words from you guys? I guess that's it. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I almost said Nyanpasi.
Bye, B.
Bye, B. Yeah.